So in all of these 5 things today, none of them are revolutionary. They're just more important now because we've done that step jump. So, I think to kick them off, my first thought about leadership is, it's interesting. I call it leaders command respect, not demand it. So if all of us think back to our childhood, how many times did we hear things like, because I'm your mum, that's why? Or you should respect your elders. But it doesn't work. You know, that's demanding respect. That's saying, look, because I own the company, you should respect me. Well, you can bang that all day long. It doesn't mean you're going to get respect. You know, and I see it, my wife's into sort of she does what I call horses, hounds, and husband. Yeah, so she does the dog training, horse training, and husband training, which she's done quite well with, actually. And you see it. You know, you've got your people who will force their dog to behave because the dog knows that if it doesn't, it's going to get a clip round the ear. But actually, proper dog training isn't about that. You know, and I remember talking about one of these books, reading a book called Whale Done. And it was basically looking at how do the trainers at SeaWorld get a killer whale to do those things? How does that happen? Because let's face it, the killer whale could quite easily consume the trainer, you know, and it's all about positive reinforcement. You know, it's all about the relationship. It's all about the stuff that would help those trainers command respect, not demand it, because you don't go shouting at a killer whale. And actually, if you go shouting at the dog, it's only going to get you so far. And if we go shouting at the teams that we have, same thing. You know, we'll get so far, but they'll be looking for another job. They're not giving you everything. They're giving you just as much as they need to give you to make sure you don't fire them while they go looking somewhere else. So, I think in the past, you could get away with being, if you like, a manager. So somebody who was trying to demand respect. That I would call is a manager, by the way. A manager demands respect, a leader commands respect. And in old money, you could get away with being a manager because there were way more managers than there were leaders. In the new normal, the difference is leaders are arising, and therefore you're not going to have the same opportunity to just demand respect. And I think as well that the generations are changing. You know, we look at, if you like, snowflakes or whatever other label we want to give these generations, but they're changing. People now want to work for a company they believe in, not a company that pays their paycheck, a company that they believe in. And they see through stuff very, very quickly. So the first thing I would say is a leader commands respect, not demands respect. The second thing I would say about leaders is leaders look for aligning goals, not aligning people to our goals. So what I mean by that is, as the business owners, as the leaders, we will only achieve our goals if we get other people to buy into them and help us achieve them. But actually, I talked about buying into our goals. No, what we need to do is understand what their goals are and find the alignment between them. You know, so it's all about, we can manipulate and we can try and almost coerce people into following our vision. But again, that only goes so far, you know, and the sad reality is it does work for a little bit of the time. So therefore people believe that's the okay way to do things. And it just isn't. It's about understanding what are the goals of your team and how can they align with yours. I remember one situation. I was working at this point actually within another business. I spent a time, in fact, it's before we started the software business. I spent time in an installation company, and I was doing 2 days a week, essentially ghost MD for this company, and training up the son. It was a father and son business, and the son wanted to become the MD. So I spent 9 months in there, basically bringing him on. And I got a call on the way up there. Elton, where are you? So I said, oh, mate, I'm literally just about to come off the junction. He said, oh, I said, what's the problem? I said, it's, what is it? He said, oh, it's so-and-so. And she just dropped this letter on my desk. I said, right, hold on. I said, right, calm down. First thing, breathe. I'm going to be there in 10 minutes. Wait for me to get there. So I turned, I said, what's the issue? He said, well, this particular lady's just dropped a letter on his desk, which basically said she's entitled as a mum to have a week's holiday. As long as it's unpaid, she's entitled to this extra time off, which is a childcare thing. I knew nothing about it, but apparently that's the case. And she's insisting she has this week off. So, okay, let me go and talk to her. So I went and spoke to this particular member of staff. By the way, it was a key member of staff. And I said, look, what's the situation? And she explained to me, she said, look, I lost one child. So some of the background is she actually lost one of her 2 children literally in the days after childbirth. So she'd lost a baby, essentially. She said, I've lost one. I don't want to lose the other one by just not being there. I said, I completely get that. I said, right, what is it you actually want? And she said, well, what I really want is I just want to take a day off every week through the school holidays to be with this particular child, because I don't want to be the absent mum. I said, well, okay. I said, that's not a problem. She said, well, the government website says I have to take it as a block. So, okay. I said, have you booked any other time off? She said, well, that's why I'm doing this, because I've already taken all my holiday. I've already blocked it in. I said, so, and presumably one of those others is a week's holiday where you're going away. She said, yeah. I said, well, why can't we use this one that has to be a block for your week in Spain, which gives you another 5 days back, which you can take 1 day per week through the school holidays? She said, that would be so much better for me. I said, well, then why don't we do that? Now, that particular lady would get all of her work done in 4 days that she was going to do in 5 anyway. So now, although she's not being paid for that 5th day, she's already getting the work done for it. So the business wins. The business isn't at break even. It's actually just got a free day every week through the school holidays. But she wins because she didn't want to take another week off in the middle of the school holidays. She wanted to do a 3-day weekend at least, or have 3 days every week with the other child, as it were. So all we've done there is we've aligned, what are your goals? What is it you want? And how can I align them with what I want? But it has to be genuine. It has to be not manipulating them to say, oh, okay, well, I've heard what you want, and therefore what you really mean is, and then flipping it. No, it's genuinely seeking out, how can I help you to achieve your goals that also probably align with our goals, the company? So, and you'll find so many situations just like that, where you can align their goals, their genuine goals that help you to achieve yours. Now that leads into my 3rd one, which is about the coaching mindset. Now, all those years ago, when Karen and I met and were doing networking, I'm not sure how many business coaches were actually on the scene, whereas, nowadays every other person seems to be some kind of coach. And, so that's definitely something that's boomed even more than my journey, shall we say. So, but to have that coaching mindset. Now, what I mean by the coaching mindset is, if we think, and obviously Peter will see this with the football teams, but if we look at the coaches in any sport, those coaches want to win matches. They want to win them as much as the players do. And yet when it comes to Saturday, you won't see them on the pitch. So how does a coach manage to win a game when they're not even playing? And it's because they're setting their players up to win. They're giving their players every possible thing they can in order for the players to win. That's how the manager wins. That's how the coach wins. And that's what we need to do. It's our role as leaders is to set the followers up for success, to give them everything that we can so that they go out and smash it, you know, so that they go and do stuff. I remember, so I had a guy come in. He was actually my ex Lloyd's Bank manager. So when I started in business, as I say, it was an accident. I had no idea. I'd come from either being in the army or being a builder. So I'd never done anything like a business plan. I'm not sure I could probably barely spell it. So when I needed to get that Lloyd's Bank loan, my business manager wrote the business plan for me because he just believed in me and that I would pay it back. But he kind of knew that I knew what I was doing, but I just didn't know how to articulate it at the time. You know, he just had belief in me. And again, this is back in the days where they could, you know, I mean, now it's a different world now. But anyway, this particular bank manager then went to work for Business Link. Of course, Business Link then closed down, and he found himself redundant at that awkward age, you know, where he's still way too young to retire. But of course, once you get to that age, nobody wants to employ you, which I always find is a bit stupid. There's so much knowledge and just value, wealth of value in somebody, in that, you know, he was in his 50s, and I think that's got to be the prime for a business, because you've got so much experience. I'm hoping so anyway. Mine's coming up. I've got that decade just arriving on me, so I'm kind of hoping that's true. So anyway, this particular guy came into the business as my ops manager, and I remember he interviewed everybody in the team, and he came up. He said, "Can I have a word?" I said, "Yeah, of course you can." Anyway, I went down. I felt like I was now being interviewed. He said, "Every single one of these guys would chop their right arm off for you." I said, "Graham," so I've given his name now. I said, "Graham," I said, "let me explain. Every one of them know that before they had a chance, I'd have chopped mine off for them." And that's the difference. And it's genuine, and I still do it today. You know, I now have 3 different teams I'm working with, and I do the same today, because my job is not to go out there and win. My job is to go out there and set everybody up in those teams to win, because that's how I get to win. You know, it's the opposite of what we think. It's not about me going out there and winning. It's about me setting up everybody else so that together we win, which therefore means I get to win. So that's about the coaching mindset. Already on the 4th one, and I think this is really important. Know what you really want. Being really clear. Now, actually, this isn't just about leadership in terms of leading others. This is about when we're leading ourselves as well. So when we look at leadership, that leadership starts with how you lead your own life. So management is all about what you do to others. Leadership is looking at how do we lead our own lives, and then how do we lead other people. And I suppose third, how we lead organizations. You know, there's a few steps to it. So what is it that you really want? Become really clear about it. I see this crazy thing all the time, and it's not quite the same as the 80s, but it's still not dissimilar, where we're clock watching. And this was probably one of the biggest sort of changes, or the resistance to letting people work from home pre-COVID, where we were forced to let that happen. And that is, but if people work from home, how do we know they're actually putting in the time? I would challenge any business that if they really looked at it, they're not even interested in how much time people work for them. It's an illusion. If I looked at any business, and Mike, this is probably more your field, you're interested in what output you get. So I might say, I need to produce X products per week. I need to complete Y Google ad campaign setups per month. It's not how many hours I need to put into setting up a Google ad campaign. It's not how many hours I spend at the machine. It's always about the output. And in fact, customers buy output. And yet, weirdly, at some point in time, we decided it was really good to measure that by time because we don't trust our people. So the only thing we can actually really monitor is when they clock in and clock out. You know, the old clocking in machine. And you saw it where, can you clock me in? I'm running late. So it was meaningless anyway. You know, so know what you really want, get really clear in terms of your organization, but also for yourself. What is it that I really want? And then set up all this other stuff. So the coaching mindset and all this aligned goals, set them up around what you actually want, not the things that we've come to believe, which is, well, you know, it's we're going to put on, I mean, in our world, it was the software block, the website blocking, you know, that was a thing at some point. So it was this thing around how you could block certain websites from being accessed. Key loggers, like as in, so you could see where your staff had actually been online, and you're like, unless you've really got some issue where you can see, you know, something dodgy is going on in the company, what are we doing? Because monitoring those things is not helping us at all. So know what we want. Okay, and then the fifth one, this is massively important, massively important. Now, although on the outside, people wouldn't necessarily see this, my default personality is I'm a massive worrier. Massive worrier. You know, I worry about so many things by default, but I spend a lot of time getting on top of my mind. And it's because of this one. What I would say is, as a leader, you are infectious. We're all infectious, but as a leader, people are already looking to you. So you are infectious. So you need to be human, but be careful. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's whether you realize it or not, the people that you are leading are always watching you. In reality, you can start to notice it now. We're always watching everybody else as well. We're picking up signs. You know, if the media talk about the Omicron variant, then all of a sudden we're worried about it. You know, it's we all do it. We're looking to see how we should be thinking, how we should be feeling. But even more so when you're the leader and you've got people looking to you, they're watching your every move. Now, here's what they really don't need. They don't need somebody who is panicking, somebody who's up and down like a yo-yo. You know, we've just got a sale. It's amazing. I'm on top of the world. Oh no, a customer's just left. Oh, the world's going to end. Oh, but it's okay. We've got a new customer. It's on top of the world. You know, that is not what your followers need. But equally, by the way, they don't need this perfect, you know, heroic strength leader. They're not looking for that either. It is okay, if you like, to be vulnerable, to be human. But that's not the same as being permanently up and down, as showing worry and all of these things. And I would, you know, if I was having a day where I'm, if you like, struggling to get on top of myself, I'll avoid the team. I'll keep myself out of their way. because the last thing I need to do is pass it on to them. My biggest responsibility is to them, not to me. So if I'm struggling, if I'm thinking, oh no, how's it all going to pan out? Stay away, make an excuse, do something, stay away, come back to them. Not when you're on top of the world. It's not like creating this Facebook style image to them that everything's always okay. Far from it. Far from it. It is, when COVID happened. So I had a slip disc. Well, I actually got it in July 19. And then by December that year, I actually went to my family in Yorkshire over Christmas, came back, and it finally went. And I had 10 weeks laid up. And I mean, literally laid up. I was in bed and I was working from my bed. So I literally rolled over. I was hanging off the end where I had an iPad and a laptop, and I carried on working, but laid flat because my disc had finally, I mean, I did do Kilimanjaro with a slip disc, so it was my own fault. I should have rested it, but it finally gave in. I got back to the office for 2 days before they locked us down. For 2 days. And in those 2 days, here's the conversations that happened. So the first off, I brought all of the team together and I said, guys, when we went through the recession, I monumentally screwed up. I got it all wrong. And some of the guys were still with me, by the way, so they already know. I didn't need to tell them. I said, I got it absolutely wrong. And what we did, by the way, in the recession is we read all of the hype and it only exists if you actually recognize it exists. And so we actually employed salespeople, because sales is a numbers game. So if sales are harder to get, then you need more salespeople to get the same amount of sales. And it didn't work. We won next to no business. We didn't necessarily lose it, just people didn't go ahead with it. They were getting proposals, but they just weren't going ahead. So as a result, we lost a lot of money through the recession, and we had to cut right back and start again. So the first thing I did is I went in and I did that vulnerable bit. I said, guys, I monumentally screwed up. However, we're not going to do that this time around. We're going to learn from it, and we're going to use that this time around. So in doing that, what I've done is I've said, look, we're human, we make mistakes, but we're confident. And that's the difference. It was instilling confidence, but not by creating this fake version of reality. So, okay, we're gonna do this. Day one, by the way, we are going to cut every cost out of this business that isn't helping us run the business. And we're going to look for every penny. Well, that's not all this massively positive story. That's quite a, what would you say? Well, not negative, but it's hardly gung-ho. But then we're going to go home, and tomorrow we're going to come in and we're going to look at how we now grow this business over the next year, whatever it happens to be. Of course, at that time, we thought we were going to be locked down for 3 weeks, maybe 6, and then we'd all be back to normal, and that didn't happen. But it was the separation of these things. It was being human. So look, we've screwed up before, but that's why we're not going to do it this time. We are going to cut all these costs out, but then tomorrow when we come in, we're going to look at growth. And that's exactly what we did. And by managing it in that way, the team were confident. We had a phenomenal year, but we did it through every morning, getting really focused on, we knew what we really wanted. I knew what their goals were. Their goals were to stay safe, by the way, and not lose their jobs. So one of the conversations was, look, we've got 2 choices here. We've got 1 spare person going into COVID because we always built in capacity. We've got a spare person, so we've got a choice. We can either lose one of the head count, or we can all take a pay cut, see how it all pans out. Every single one of them, including myself, we all just took a pay cut so that we could keep a person, which was spare capacity. Furlough, we didn't furlough a single person because we knew that in the end, what happens when that person who's just had 80% of their salary comes back and he's just had 6 months holiday, How do the others feel about that? How do they feel when they've suddenly got to come back? How do they get back up to speed? So it was that pause, breathe, and this "you are infectious" bit. I knew that whatever I said to the guys, they were hanging off, and especially in those times, because it was all a bit strange for everybody. But in those moments, they were hanging on to every word I was about to say. So those words had to be right. So before I spoke to them, took the time to one side, get the story straight, and go with it. So, so those are my 5 points, and I'm sure they'll have raised some questions. So I'll just recap. But I've got the difference between the leader and manager. So this is that bit about commanding respect, not demanding respect. Yeah, they don't owe you respect. We earn it. Aligning the goals. This is the one that's really difficult because yes, you have got goals. To be a leader means you're probably, there's some ambition there, that's for sure. And therefore you have goals and they're important to you. Mine are important to me, so, but finding out their goals and genuinely trying to help them fulfill their goals that work towards your goals. That coaching mindset, so setting them up for success is how you get success. Don't chase your own success, line them up so that they create your success and actually, do what they want. Being really clear about what you want, so you're not trying to monitor and set things up wrong, i.e. managing the amount of time they put in rather than the output they get. If my guys did 2 hours work per day and managed to get everything done, go home. Go home. I'm not looking at how many minutes you put in. It's not important to me. What we get out, that's really important to me. And the last one, which is probably the most important, you are infectious. You can't help that. You are. So therefore, let's just be really careful. Be human, but really careful. So there we go. So that's my 5, and I'm happy to be grilled on them. So